It's good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for joining us this Thursday. We begin this morning in Atlanta, where later tonight, the first presidential debate of the general election between President Biden and former President Trump will take place.
This will be the first time the two have been on the same stage together since they debated during the 2020 election. Both men spent the past week preparing for this highly anticipated rematch in very different ways. This 90-minute debate will be different from anything we've seen in recent years. It'll take place at CNN's Atlanta studios with no audience. Also, it's happening much earlier than normal. Past presidential debates have traditionally happened in the fall, just ahead of Election Day. Recent polls show the race for the White House is a tight one right now. President Biden and former President Trump are neck and neck with just over 4 months until Election Day.
For more on what we can expect tonight, we are joined by NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen, as well as NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard, who is in Atlanta at the site there. Good morning to both of you. John, I will start with you. Walk us through some of the unique rule changes for tonight's debate and remind us why Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump are debating ahead of their party's convention specifically.
Well, I think if you just back up a little bit, if you zoom out, the reason for these rules and the reason for this early debate is when Joe Biden wanted to do it, it's how Joe Biden wanted to do it, or at least how his campaign did. Donald Trump had challenged him to debate anytime, any place, and Joe Biden responded by saying, okay, fine, here's where I want to debate, here's when I want to debate, and here's how I want to debate. In terms of the unique rules, you mentioned earlier there won't be any audience in the room, but what folks should really pay attention to and may help them pay attention to what the candidates are saying is you're going to have some uninterrupted answers. I wish I could get that out better from these candidates. You're going to have 2 minutes for the first response. You're going to have a minute for a rebuttal, a minute for a counter rebuttal, and the microphones are going to be muted when each candidate isn't talking. That's an attempt to avoid the type of interruptions we saw in the first debate between them in 2020.
Vaughn, let's bring you in here. Former President Trump has often mocked President Biden during campaign events. It seems he kind of changed his tune recently, calling the president a worthy debater, perhaps trying to raise the bar instead of lower it. What else is Mr. Trump saying about his rival?
You know, I think if you go back 1 month ago when two men first agreed to this debate, the sound that comes from Donald Trump about Joe Biden is very different. Initially, he said that Joe Biden was the worst debater of all time and that he couldn't string two sentences together, that he wouldn't even be able to walk across the stage. Fast forward to this last week and where we find ourselves now, well, the expectation setting has been lowered a little bit for Joe Biden. Instead, Donald Trump has suggested that he is a, quote, worthy debater and somebody who is going to be amped up on drugs. Now, let's be very clear. When we say that, there is no evidence, and Donald Trump has nothing behind those statements other than to try, in the minds of Americans who are going to be tuning in tonight, to discredit Joe Biden's performance up on the stage. Of course, the question here is for President Biden. Folks will recall there was expectation setting 4 years ago by Donald Trump when he said that he was sleepy Joe Biden hiding in his basement, that he was not going to be able to be a good debater, and he also accused him of being on drugs in that debate. And that's where this expectation setting by Donald Trump has led to some concern that Joe Biden will surprise many Americans who have seen either misleading clips posted online or Donald Trump, almost set those expectations that Joe Biden is not going to be able to perform on stage tonight, when each time he has taken the microphone in big moments, he has ultimately, in the Biden campaign's mind, delivered in front of the American public.
John, despite the fact that this is earlier than normal for a presidential debate, there is a lot of interest in it. A recent AP poll, in fact, shows about 6 in 10 Americans are extremely or very likely to watch tonight. What do you think that says about the interest in the election this far away from it when people will head to the polls?
Savannah, it tells me that people like to tell pollsters that they're more likely to watch presidential debates than they actually are. If you do a little bit of math, if 60% of American adults watch this debate, there'd be about 150 million people watching the debate, which would smash all kinds of records, not only for debates, but basically for television. I mean, I think about that number of people maybe watch the moon landing. That said, I think that there are a significant number of Americans that will want to see the difference between them. Some of them because they want to see their candidate beat up on the other one. Others because they're genuinely interested in potentially being persuaded. Debates do tend to get a pretty strong audience. I think there were 80 million that watched one of the Trump-Hillary Clinton debates back in 2016. So I think there is interest in watching them go up against each other. But, we still are dealing in a situation where most Americans disapprove heavily of one or the other candidate.
So, Vaughn, if you missed the first debate...
both of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just going to say, and some of them disapprove heavily of both of them.
Yes, the double haters, as we keep talking about. So, Vaughn, if you missed the first one, there'll be a second debate much closer to the election. It's scheduled for September. What do we know about that one so far? And just after tonight, where do the campaigns go from here?
We know quite just a little about that second debate, but we do know that there are going to be only two debates as it stands right now. The Biden team, as John was saying, laying out what they wanted in terms of debate agreement without going outside of the norm. And so you're going to have debate number one here, debate number two in September. Of course, we expect a vice presidential debate here as well. But of course, we're also waiting for Donald Trump to announce who his running mate would be to take on Vice President Kamala Harris in that debate. So the stakes of tonight, 4 months out, are going to be sky high, especially heading into next month's Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention in August, guys.
All right, Vaughn and John, thank you both very much. We will have much more on this first presidential debate hosted by CNN throughout the day on NBC News Now. And then tonight, our special live coverage gets underway at 7 p.m. Eastern. The debate itself is at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. You can watch all of that right here on NBC News Now, as well as on NBC.
The Supreme Court is set to issue another round of rulings this morning. There are outstanding cases that could impact the former president and those who took part in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Now, in a strange twist yesterday, the High Court acknowledged that it inadvertently posted a document online related to a pending abortion case. It was obtained by Bloomberg Law before it was removed from the website. NBC News could not independently verify the document, and it's not known if it was the actual decision, a draft decision, or neither. NBC News Supreme Court reporter Lawrence Hurley joins us now for more on this. Lawrence, good morning. So not the first time documents related to the Supreme Court have been seen by the public before they were supposed to be. Famously, the Roe versus Wade decision in 2022 was leaked nearly 2 months before the final ruling was issued. So first of all, what did these prematurely posted documents tell us, keeping in mind we don't know if this was actually the final decision?
Yeah, I mean, this snafu seems a little different to what happened a couple of years ago. I mean, we don't really know what happened a couple of years ago because the court did an investigation and never figured out how exactly that ruling got leaked. Who knows? Maybe that was also some kind of IT problem like what appeared to happen here. But what I do know from my own experience covering the court is that there have been a couple of times where things have been posted online either before they're supposed to be released or in the wrong place, or and sometimes, people see those things and they get taken down and that type of thing. So maybe, the focus here should be on the Supreme Court's IT department more than anything else. But I think, this ruling obviously is one of those significant cases that's coming up in the next few days. And, it puts everyone on high alert as we get those rulings coming in.
What did the document say, again, knowing this may not be the final decision?
Yeah, it looks like, based on what this document says, is that the court's going to allow emergency room abortions in Idaho, which is one of the states that has passed very strict abortion laws after Roe v. Wade was overturned. And this is a conflict between federal and state law, where the Biden administration is saying there's a federal law covering emergency room standards that requires abortions to take place in these circumstances. But it looks like the court's not actually going to decide that question. Instead, it's just going to say, actually, we took this case up prematurely. We're going to actually just send it back to the lower courts and leave the issue unresolved. But in the meantime, the abortions can take place in these emergency room settings.
The fact that this document was posted inadvertently, what is the Supreme Court saying about it?
Yeah, they've said, they've acknowledged, as you mentioned, that there was a document related to this case that was posted inadvertently on the website and then removed. They haven't really said anything about the actual content of that. And so, they don't like to say anything more than what they want to say. So that's what we have for now. And I think it's very likely possible that we're actually going to get that decision in a couple of hours when the court issues its next round of decisions.
Yeah, the Supreme Court likes to give out brief statements often. So while we do wait for that final decision, remind us the details of this Idaho case, how it even ended up before the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why the court maybe is dismissing it is because it kind of rushed up to the court. Like, there's never been an appeals court ruling, for example, in this case. There was a district court judge who ruled in favor of the Biden administration's interpretation of that law, saying, yes, we think that the federal law does require abortions to take place, even when there's a very strict abortion ban, because federal law, if there's a conflict with state law, federal law wins. That's the sort of general principle. But that ruling was immediately appealed up to the Supreme Court by Idaho state officials before there was a full appeal. And once it got up to the Supreme Court, they heard oral arguments, and then clearly some of the justices were like, well, we're not sure if we actually want to go ahead and decide this case, just because some of the arguments changed. The Biden administration kind of backed off on some of its claims, and so did Idaho. So you ended up with a case where some of the justices, at least in this draft that appears to have been posted by accident, suggest that some of the justices are like, we don't want to decide this now. Let's wait for another day to decide this.
So, Lawrence, we're still waiting for 12 decisions from the Supreme Court. Real quick, remind us, what are the big ones we're waiting for beyond this abortion case?
Yeah, I mean, basically at this time of year, every case is a big case. But obviously the one that everyone is looking for is the Trump immunity case on the question of whether the former president can be prosecuted for his role in trying to overturn the election results in 2020 on this question of presidential immunity. And that's, clearly an important case that the court's going to be deciding next couple of days, as well as another one about one of the January 6th defendants who faced an obstruction charge. And then there's several other quite interesting cases that we'll be covering, and we'll be bringing all that to you when it happens.
All right. Lawrence Hurley, appreciate your reporting. Thank you so much.
Now let's get to that extreme weather battering the U.S. from coast to coast. So far, it's not letting up. People in Iowa are bracing for potentially more devastating weather headed into the weekend as some return home after evacuating due to flooding, only to find rubble. In South Dakota, one woman describing how she lost everything.
I have a tri-level house, so the two lower levels are wrecked, full of mud, gross, stinks to high heaven, no power, so everything we had in freezers, refrigerators is rotten. I saw my life is gone, and in my home. We could only grab what we could carry out, so it isn't much.
And today, millions of people are still under dangerous heat alerts. We will get to the forecast in just a moment. First, though, here's NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch, who you just saw there with the latest from the Midwest.
Joe and Savannah, good morning. You can see behind me a closer look at the devastation here in North Sioux City, South Dakota. Take a look at this structure collapsed into this hole in the ground that has formed here. You can see this truck is teetering on the edge here. This is just one example of the force of the floodwaters here. The recovery in this community continues as Americans across the country continue to deal with tough weather. Overnight, intense storms swept through the Northeast. New Jersey had wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour that downed trees and power lines. There were also ground stops for hours at airports in the New York City and Washington, D.C. areas because of thunderstorms. Take a look at this picture capturing a lightning bolt hitting the Empire State Building. All of this as we continue to keep an eye on floodwaters that continue raging past the Rapidan Dam in Mankato, Minnesota. The ground in that community giving way in portions as well. All of this as more than 20 million people face a summer heat wave that won't let up. Residents in Oklahoma and Texas dealing with another day of sweltering highs in the triple digits. And there are other communities that are bracing for the potential of more flooding, again, as recovery continues in hard-hit areas like where we are right now. Joan, Savannah, back to you.
Jesse, thank you so much.
For more on this relentless weather, let's bring in meteorologist Angie Lassman.
Yeah, she's here tracking the latest on the movement of all the severe weather for us this morning. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. We had quite an active night, as you heard Jesse talk about, across parts of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. The good news for that region, those showers are moving out. We've just got a couple of lingering kind of showers right near the coast. Most folks, though, are going to get out the door this morning and be just fine through the day across this region. It's a different story, though, for the middle of the country. That's where we're going to watch for another round of some of these stronger storms storms to develop through the day today, thanks to this system that's going to be working its way east over the next couple of days. One of the problems is going to be the heavy rain that we see impacting folks that have already been hard hit. You heard Jesse talking about the river flooding that is still ongoing in some of these areas across the upper Midwest. So more rain, of course, not what we need in that region, but that's what we're going to get as we get into tomorrow. Those storms will march across the upper Midwest. Today, though, here's the area that we're watching, mainly parts of the Rockies and parts of the plains. 6 million people are at risk of this, but notice what we're most concerned about. Those strong wind gusts up to hurricane force will be possible. We're talking 80 miles per hour or higher. This is going to be something we look for afternoon and into the overnight hours. And of course, the hail and maybe an isolated tornado, all possible as well. Looking ahead to tomorrow, we see that severe threat shift for 10 million people. It does include Des Moines, Kansas City, North Platte, Sioux City, and inching up towards parts of Minnesota. But again, it's those same kind of impacts. Mainly, we're going to be concerned about the stronger winds, anywhere from 75 miles per hour or greater, and then the damaging hail and a couple of tornadoes possible. This is the area that we're most concerned for with those strong winds. And again, it's going to be the same kind of go around with what we're dealing with today and tomorrow. Now, the rain, I mentioned it'll be concerning, and you can see why. Even another quarter of an inch or half an inch on some of these swollen waterways is going to be problematic for folks that have been struggling to even get back into their routine or into their homes in the past couple of days. So additional rain, likely the widespread amounts, a quarter of an inch to an inch. But notice you see some of these spots across parts of Missouri and Kansas that could reach 2, maybe 3 inches of rain as we get through the day tomorrow. Meanwhile, the heat not letting up for some folks. We do have still dealing with some of these heat alerts that we're going to be tracking at least through the day today. We've got triple digits, no surprise for places across Texas. Dallas ends up at 98 degrees. We've got mid-90s for Jacksonville. So those above normal temperatures, they're sticking with us through today, through tomorrow, and ahead into the weekend as well, guys. The summer-like temperatures across most of the East is going to be something that you'll notice. We've got 88 degrees on tap for Chicago on Saturday, mid-90s for Sunday in Raleigh in the triple digits. They are still with us in Dallas Saturday through Monday.
Western part of the country, 103 in some places. I know.
Wow. It's brutal.
All right, thank you, Angie. Appreciate it.
Yep. Now to Capitol Hill, where House Republicans are threatening to force through a vote this week on holding Attorney General Merrick Garland in inherent contempt of Congress. The effort is being spearheaded by Florida Republican Representative Anna Paulina Luna. She made the announcement yesterday, along with 9 other GOP lawmakers.
When an individual is called before courts across the country, they appear. Why should the Attorney General, who is supposed to be head of all law enforcement authorities, any different? Garland still has time to comply with this request. We are asking that he bring the tapes to the House and let us listen to them. But in the event that he does not, we will press forward with calling the privilege motion on inherent contempt to the floor on Friday morning.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale joins us for more on this and other headlines we are following all on Capitol Hill. Ali, good morning. So walk us through what's going on here. What exactly does inherent contempt mean, and what could this mean for the Attorney General?
Yeah, because your viewers who follow Capitol Hill might be wondering, didn't House Republicans just hold the Attorney General in actual contempt? Because they did that a few weeks ago. This is a step further, and it's also a really arcane procedure that even some lawmakers didn't realize existed, wherein you would basically be saying that if you hold the Attorney General in inherent contempt, you're basically sending the sergeant at arms to go arrest him. And especially given the fact that he's got a security detail, no one really knows how that would go. And so what we're watching here is not only the fact that this has not ever been used in modern times, but also whether or not they even have the votes to do this. It looks unlikely, but what we're probably going to see is Congresswoman Luna call this as a privileged motion tomorrow. That means that they have a certain number of days to actually take it up. The problem is the House goes into a recess for the July 4th week. So we'll see if this is something that gets picked up on the back end of that. But again, I'm not even sure they have the votes here, and this would be a really tricky thing to actually do. The other point that we have to make here is when she says that when people are subpoenaed, they come before. Yeah, that is usually what happens. But when the head of the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, was subpoenaed by the January 6th committee, he and several other lawmakers ignored their subpoenas. So that precedent has been set even just in the last few years for people to ignore their subpoenas.
Ali, another story you're watching, House Judiciary Committee planning to vote this morning on holding President Biden's ghostwriter in contempt of Congress. That is for refusing to hand over documents and other materials that were related to his work on the president's memoirs. What can you tell us about that?
Work on the president's memoirs, and actually this is the thread that ties both the attorney general and this latest thread with Mark Zwanitzer together, the president's ghostwriter. It's all about the tapes that Robert Hur recorded when he interviewed President Biden around the handling of classified documents. This has become a major charge for several of the committees doing oversight, lowercase o, of President Biden and the administration. So you've got the actual oversight committee, the Judiciary Committee, all looking for these recordings. They're now trying to get notes on that from the president's ghostwriter. Initially, they asked for them in February. There was some back and forth. They then subpoenaed them in March, and now they're trying to hold him in contempt in a further effort to get what they want.
Allie, elsewhere, it looks like House GOP leaders are stepping up efforts to support former Trump advisor Steve Bannon following an order for him to surrender to prison on July 1st. What are we seeing there?
Yeah, ramping up their investigations, trying to wind back the impact of some past investigations, those specifically done by the House January 6th committee, which we should note has been upheld in court as a committee that was stood up properly, existed properly, and yet we're still seeing this rarely used committee that's mostly made up of leadership members. So the Speaker of the House, the top Democrat, all Republicans voted to basically intervene by sending a brief on Steve Bannon's behalf, effectively saying that he shouldn't have been held in contempt in the first place because the January 6th committee never really should have existed. We've heard this argument again before, and the courts upheld the January 6th committee. This is not going to be something that gets to the courts, our understanding is, before that July 1st deadline for Steve Bannon. But nevertheless, it's another example of House Republicans intervening on behalf of other conservatives and certainly on other Trump allies. We've seen them be the first line of defense in Congress for the former president himself. Now they're just sort of branching out and helping his allies, too.
Allie, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.